Have you ever felt something inside you begin to move for no apparent reason? As if a silent, deep, and persistent voice were whispering that there is more to life than you have known until now. It is not a logical thought, nor a fleeting emotion. It is a call, an ancient, mysterious call born from the soul, one that awakens when the time has come. This call is not random. It is a sign that you are beginning one of the most sacred and transformative journeys a human being can undertake. Spiritual awakening, not a superficial awakening of ideas or beliefs, but one that shakes the very foundations of your identity, tears away illusions, and invites you to see reality with completely new eyes. And though each awakening is unique, like an unrepeatable energetic fingerprint, there are common stages that most seekers pass through. These stages act as thresholds, marking the transition from an old version of yourself to one more authentic, free, and connected with the divine dot. In this video, we will walk together through the 5 stages of spiritual awakening, not as a rigid map, but as a living guide that will help you understand where you are on your journey and where you are heading. Book from the initial chaos that shakes your world to the serene clarity of the grounded soul. Each stage holds its own purpose, power, and mystery. This will not be a simple, informative review. Will be a deep, symbolic, and energetic exploration of the transformation that every conscious being is destined to live. I invite you to listen with an open heart, to allow yourself to feel what resonates, and above all, to remember that you are not alone. If you are watching this video, it is very likely that your soul has already begun to awaken. And this may be one of the clearest signs that your transformation is already underway. Spiritual awakening is neither a modern invention nor a passing trend in personal growth. It is an ancestral process, recorded in the hidden pages of sacred texts, safeguarded in forgotten temples, and transmitted orally in the mystery schools since time immemorial. What we now call the stages of awakening were once known as the initiatory degrees of the soul. In ancient Egypt, the priests of the temple of Isis and Horus guided initiates through symbolic processes of spiritual death and rebirth. These were not theatrical rituals, but true tests of the soul. The neophyte had to pass through inner chaos, the abyss of ignorance, and finally arrive at the light of wisdom and union with thee. Or this journey was represented by the 12 portals of transformation, each corresponding to a higher level of consciousness. In Hindu traditions, awakening was understood as the process of Kundalini serpent energy lying dormant at the base of the spine. As it ascends through the chakras, it awakens spiritual perception and expands consciousness until reaching samadhi or enlightenment. This energetic ascension unfolds in stages, each with its own challenges and revelations. Buddhism is no stranger to this concept either. Siddhartha Gautama, before becoming the Buddha, passed through multiple inner stages: renunciation, doubt, struggle with the ego, enlightenment beneath the Bodhi tree, and finally, selfless service to the world. his followers came to understand that every authentic spiritual awakening requires rupture, clarity, and transformation. In the mystical texts of Gnostic Christianity, the awakening is described as the knowledge of the heart and the ascent of the soul's ladder. Awakening is not merely belief or conversion, it is a conscious ascent into the kingdom of the inner heavens. The place Jesus pointed to when he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." In the Gospel of Thomas, Christ is presented not as an external savior, but as an inner divine spark that must be ignited. Neoplatonic philosophers like Plotinus taught that the soul descended into the physical world to learn, to forget, and finally to remember its divine nature through a process called anamnesis, or sacred remembrance. Step by step, stage by stage, this was the return of the soul to its original source, the one even among indigenous peoples. The concept of awakening was present in many shamanic cultures. Awakening began with a call from Spiritufen through a crisis or illness that marked the start of transformation. Those who answered the call had to undergo symbolic trials, fasting, visions, isolation, the death of the ego, until they were reborn as healers, guides, or visionaries. These traditions, separated by time and geography, shared a profound intuition. Spiritual awakening is not an event, but a journey. It is not a sudden flash of enlightenment, but a path of deep, often painful, yet always sacred transformation. And this path is marked by stages, cycles, and transitions that lead us from darkness to light, from confusion to clarity, from the small self to the infinite being. Today, in our hyper-connected yet spiritually hungry world, souls are still awakening. And although we no longer kneel before sphinxes or meditate in caves, the process remains the same. The 5 stages of awakening we will explore are rooted in this ancient wisdom. They are doors into yourself, echoes of a knowledge your soul already carries and has come here to remember. At its core, spiritual awakening is a return toward something new, but toward the eternal. It is the process by which the soul, asleep in the illusion of the material world, begins to remember its divine origin. And while each path is unique, there are universal stages that mark this sacred journey. These stages are not abstract concepts, but inner thresholds, opening one after another in rhythm with our evolution. In this first part, we will explore the first 3 stages of spiritual awakening. Those that act as the crucible where the soul begins to transform. Some are painful, others revealing, but all are necessary. Stage 1, the dark night of the soul. This stage, often unwanted, but absolutely essential, is the breaking point. It is the moment when the old self begins to crumble. Everything you thought you were, identity, your goals, your beliefs, your relationships, loses meaning. You may feel empty, lost, even disconnected from all that once gave you security. Christian mystics such as Saint John of the Cross described this as the dark night of the soul, a passage of desolation that paradoxically prepares the ground for light. In this phase, the soul enters deep introspection. The ego struggles to hold on, but something deeper has already awakened. Common symptoms include existential crisis, spiritual anxiety, a sense of emptiness, loss of purpose, emotional isolation. Yet, this chaos is not punishment, it is the alchemical fire of purification. It is the moment when the caterpillar begins to dissolve. Unaware, it is destined to fly. Stage 2. The inner calling after the initial collapse. Something new begins to emerge. At first, it is fainter, fragile but persistent spark. This is the call, a subtle, insistent sense that there is something more, something beyond the visible and the ordinary. You begin to question everything. Who am I really? Why am I here? What does it all mean? You feel drawn to spirituality, ancient philosophies, symbols, mysteries. There is almost a magnetic pull toward self-knowledge. This stage resembles the first awakening in many esoteric traditions. The soul begins to remember. There is no full clarity yet, but there is thirst for truth, an intuition of a deeper reality waiting to be revealed. Here begins the conscious search. You read books you once ignored. You feel drawn to practices like meditation, yoga, tarot, astrology, shamanism, not as trends, but as tools to awaken what is dormant within you. Common signs include constant synchronicities, symbolic dreams, a desire to withdraw from superficial environments, and a sense of connection with the invisible. Stage 3. The expansion of consciousness in this stage. What were once mere intuitions become direct experiences. You begin to perceive reality differently. What once seemed rigid becomes fluid. What once appeared separate is revealed as interconnected. Your awareness expands. You start to understand that you are more than a body, more than a personal story. You realize that you are part of something much greater. The individual self begins to dissolve into the cosmic we. You may experience moments of profound peace, of unity with all things. Sometimes they are brief, but they leave an indelible mark. Duality begins to crumble. Judgment is replaced by compassion, guilt by acceptance, fear by presence. In many traditions, this phase is seen as the birth of the higher self, the moment when the soul takes the reins and begins to guide you from a higher perspective. Common signs include heightened empathy, energetic activation, a deep sense of connection with nature, mystical or transcendental experiences, and flashes of clarity that defy logic. These 3 stages, the fall, the calling, and the expansion, make up the first great cycle of awakening. They are the first 3 steps of the initiate crossing the threshold of the inner temple. They are not easy, but they are profoundly sacred. For each one tears away a veil, reveals a truth, and brings you closer to who you truly are. Up until now, the soul has crossed the thresholds of pain, longing, and expansion. It has begun to remember who it is and has glimpsed reality beyond the veil of illusion. But the journey of spiritual awakening does not end with a fleeting experience of unity. What comes next is even more sacred and more demanding. Becoming what has been remembered, embodying the light, living awake. In this section, we will explore the two final stages of spiritual awakening: integration and conscious mastery. These phases transform not only how you perceive reality, but also how you walk through the world. Here, it is no longer about seeking more, it is about being, sustaining the soul's frequency in the midst of life's noise. Stage 4. Integration, awakening made life. After revelations comes the time of integration. This stage is often less spectacular, yet more crucial than the previous ones. You may have had visions, profound insights, perhaps mystical experiences, but now you must bring it all down to earth. Spiritual integration is the art of harmonizing your new awareness with everyday life. This is where many stumble. They want to remain in ecstasy, but true spirituality is tested in the simple, in the daily how you respond to chaos, how you navigate relationships, how you act when no one is watching. You begin to purify your life, release what no longer resonates: habits, people, jobs, environments, not out of judgment, but out of discernment. This is not a stage of painful renunciation, but of conscious refinement. You are sculpting your reality from the new awareness that has awakened within you. A deep need for authenticity also emerges. You can no longer wear masks. You want to live in total coherence. What you think, what you feel, what you do, all vibrating on the same frequency. Here, spirituality ceases to be theory and becomes a way of being in the world. Some common signs include a search for inner coherence, radical lifestyle changes, more aligned relationships, a sense of service or higher purpose, and periods of deep inner silence. This stage is long, cyclical like a spiral, deepening with every turn. It does not truly end, for there is always more to integrate. But each aligned layer makes you freer, lighter, more authentic. Fifth stage, conscious mastery, being in service to the whole. The final stage of awakening is not about retreat, isolation, or perfection. It is about conscious presence in the world, with your feet firmly on the earth and your soul anchored in the heavens. It means becoming a living bridge between dimensions. At this stage, you are no longer searching, not because you know everything, but because you have discovered within yourself the source that holds it all. You have shifted from the identity of a seeker to that of a light-bearer. This mastery is not arrogance or egoic enlightenment. It is active humility. You know that everything is in constant transformation, but you no longer resist. You flow, you serve, you radiate. You guide without imposing. You are a teacher without disciples, a lighthouse that does not need to convince. You simply shine, and your presence transforms. At this point, your energy begins to impact others naturally. You attract those who are ready. Your words, your silence, and your actions become medicine, because you plan them, but because you are a channel for something greater. This is the stage of the Bodhisattva in Buddhism, the realized being in Vedanta, the embodied Christ in Gnosis. Not someone apart from the world, but a fully present being walking among others as one who carries a burning torch. Common signs of this stage include profound inner peace, detachment without coldness, constant inspiration, the attraction of seekers, bio, and the ability to hold elevated energetic spaces. Yet, like every stage, this is not a fixed destination. It is not the summit of a mountain, but the opening of a new cycle. For the true master remains a student of the mystery and, as long as they breathe, continues refining their vibration, serving in silence, and remembering in every moment that the path has no end, only depth. Through these 5 stages, the soul awakens, purifies, expands, aligns, cultivate, and ultimately becomes who it truly is. There is no return, no more masks, only the presence of being, living from the highest truth. Understanding the stages of spiritual awakening is a powerful revelation, but that understanding becomes wisdom only when applied. Enlightenment does not happen in a hidden temple or on top of a mountain. It unfolds in the everyday, in traffic, in uncomfortable conversations, in the silence of dawn, bend in the decisions we make when no one is watching. Here is how you can navigate these stages consciously. Stage 1. The dark night of the soul. This stage is a radical purification. Do not fight the darkness. Observe it, listen to it, speak with it, ask what it came to teach you. Most importantly, allow yourself to feel without judgment. Write about your journey. Do not isolate completely, but choose with love who you share this process with. Practice detachment, not from rejection, but from understanding. Release what no longer vibrates with you. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself. Remember, you are not falling. You are being replanted. Keep a shadow journal. Each day, write what hurts, what confuses you, and what you intuit is being born within. Stage 2. The inner calling. This is the moment to open to the mystery without needing absolute answers. Read, research, explore different traditions, but beyond external knowledge, begin listening to your inner wisdom. That is the true teacher. Strengthen your connection with nature. Listen to your body. Experiment without rigidity. Try meditation, visualizations, mindful walks, prayer. The soul will speak in the language you are willing to receive. A useful practice is to create an altar of awakening. You don't need expensive objects, only symbols that represent your intention to. Reconnect with the sacred. Stage 3. Expansion of consciousness. Here you begin to feel part of something greater. Your emotions grow subtler. Your thoughts expand. It is a moment of attunement with the invisible. The key in this stage is not to rush. The mind will try to rationalize your experience, but the soul whispers more than it shouts. Watch your words, your actions, your decisions, not because you must be perfect, but because you now know everything carries resonance. Choose from presence. Honor your energy. Practice conscious silence. Dedicate 10 minutes each day to sit in silence. No expectations, just presence. The soul is strengthened in simplicity. Stage 4. Integration. If you are integrating everything you've learned, this is when true alchemy begins. You no longer need to escape into the forest to feel spiritual. You can stand in the middle of a chaotic city and still vibrate high. Yet the temptation to fall back also appears. People, places, or old patterns that try to pull you into previous versions of yourself. Don't fight them, thank them, and choose again. This is a time to establish new structures, nutrition, rest, relationships, habits, not as an imposition, but as an act of love toward your reborn self. Create a sacred routine, a mindful morning or evening where you meditate. Give thanks, cleanse your energy, and affirm your path. Stage 5. Conscious mastery. If you are in conscious mastery, you have stopped seeking and begun living from truth. You are not a lighthouse to impress, but to illuminate. You are in service. Here the ego dissolves even more, and every day becomes an act of surrender. But this stage requires great humility. The true master keeps learning, keeps falling, keeps polishing the soul. The work does not end, it deepens. Learn to serve without losing yourself, to accompany without absorbing, to guide without dependency. This is the subtle art of living with your feet on the earth and your soul in the sky. Practice silent service. Do something for someone each day without expecting recognition. True power is cultivated in the anonymity of the soul. So, how do you know which stage you are in? The answer lies in your body, your emotions, your dreams. There is no stage better than another, no linear path. Sometimes you may inhabit 2 or more phases at once, or return to a previous one to heal what is unfinished. What matters is to recognize them, honor them, and walk with honesty. This is not a journey outward, but a deep descent into the temple of your soul. Now that you've explored the 5 stages of spiritual awakening, too, you may realize a profound truth. There is no final destination, only constant expansion. Awakening is not a goal, it is a way of walking. It is the sacred choice to live with the eyes of the soul open, even when the world seems asleep. This journey is not linear. It is not climbing a ladder toward perfection, but moving through concentric circles toward the center of your being. Again and again, with more truth, more depth, more compassion. Perhaps today you are in the dark night and feel everything is falling apart. Perhaps you've just heard the calling and don't know where to start. Or maybe you are integrating years of inner work without needing labels or approval. It doesn't matter where you are if you are walking toward yourself. You are already on the right path. Awakening is not an isolated event. It is a daily choice. It is asking yourself each morning, from where do I want to live today? From fear or from love? Be from conditioning or from my essence? And every time you choose your soul, even in the smallest of ways, you are contributing not only to your own evolution, but to that of all. For when one human being awakens, even just a little, all of humanity shines brighter. This message does not seek to give you all the answers. It seeks to remind you that you already carry them within. Every stage you walk through is part of a divine plan designed by your higher consciousness to help you remember who you truly are. So when you doubt, when you fall, when you forget, return to this map, not as something rigid, but as a mirror that reflects back your highest self. And remember, no awakening is too small, no shadow too great. Everything you live if faced with presence brings you closer to truth. And now, I invite you to join this circle of awakened souls. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to continue exploring esoteric wisdom and the mysteries of the soul. Give it a like if something within you stirred awake, and share this with those you know are ready to remember who they are. Because awakening is not done in solitude, it is done in tribe, in connection, in love. And you, traveler of the spirit, which of these stages are you walking through?